Most guys blow it over text without even knowing why. But what if I told you there are 5 specific texts women secretly hope to receive, and that sending them could instantly make you more attractive? When it comes to texting, the first thing you need to understand is that it's not just about the words. It's about the feeling those words create. A well-crafted text can do more than convey information. It can make her laugh, think, or even feel a spark of excitement that she wasn't expecting. And the secret? It's all in the way you blend humor, curiosity, and confidence. Let's break this down with the first text. Imagine you've just had a casual conversation with someone you're interested in. Instead of sending something bland like, "It was nice meeting you," you could say, "Okay, quick question. How do you feel about pineapple on pizza? This might determine if we can ever be friends." This text works on several levels. First, it's playful. It uses humor to stand out from the typical "had a great time" messages. Second, it creates curiosity. Even if she doesn't care about pizza toppings, she's likely intrigued enough to reply. And finally, it sets the tone for a conversation that's lighthearted and engaging. Why does this matter? Women are often drawn to men who don't take themselves too seriously. Humor shows confidence. It's a subtle way of saying, "I'm comfortable in my skin, and I'm not afraid to have fun." When you can make her smile through a text, you're already winning points. But humor isn't the only tool in your arsenal. Sometimes, a text that invites curiosity can be just as powerful. Let's say you send a message like, "You wouldn't believe what just happened to me. I need your opinion on this." Here's what makes this text so effective. It's impossible to ignore. It opens a loop in her mind. She has to know what happened. Even better, by asking for her opinion, you're subtly appealing to her desire to feel valued and included in your thoughts. The brilliance of a text like this is that it keeps the interaction natural while subtly steering the dynamic in your favor. You're not just making small talk, you're involving her in a moment of your life. It builds rapport and starts to establish a connection that feels genuine. Now, here's where things get even more interesting. A lot of guys think they have to try too hard to impress over text, but the reality is the opposite. Confidence often shines through simplicity. For example, instead of overthinking your next move, try sending something straightforward yet intriguing, like, "I just found the perfect spot for coffee. If you're nice, I might just tell you where it is." This text is playful, yes, but it also subtly frames you as someone who knows what they want. You're setting the pace, showing confidence, and giving her a reason to engage without overwhelming her. Confidence and humor are great, but mystery is the secret sauce that makes texts irresistible. A message like, "I just remembered something about you, but I'm not sure if I should tell you yet," instantly grabs attention. Why? Because it's not complete. It creates an information gap. She's left wondering what you remembered and why you're hesitating to share it. This builds tension in the best way, turning a simple text exchange into something she'll be thinking about long after she puts her phone down. When you text like this, you're not just communicating, you're setting yourself apart. These messages are more than just words, they're experiences. They make her feel something, whether it's amusement, curiosity, or a desire to know more about you. Now that we've established the importance of humor, curiosity, and mystery, let's dive deeper into how these elements work together to create texts that leave a lasting impression. At this point, you might be wondering, what makes these texts so different from what everyone else is sending? The answer lies in one key principle: emotional resonance. Women don't just respond to the words you use, they respond to the emotions your words evoke. Take, for example, this text. "I just saw something that reminded me of you. Guess what it was?" On the surface, it seems simple, but its impact is anything but. Here's why it works. First, it signals that she's on your mind in a subtle, non-pressuring way. Second, It sparks curiosity. She'll immediately want to know what reminded you of her, creating an opportunity for playful back and forth. Third, it taps into emotional association, tying her presence to a positive or intriguing thought in your life. Think about this. The more you can associate yourself with feelings of excitement, joy, or intrigue, the more she'll look forward to your messages. This isn't about manipulation. It's about understanding how to communicate in a way that feels engaging and fun. When texting becomes an enjoyable experience, she'll naturally want to continue the conversation, and that's when deeper connections start to form. Let's move to another example, one that balances humor and a touch of boldness. You're officially banned from my playlist, unless you can guess my top 3 songs. This kind of message is powerful because it's not only fun, but it also invites her to engage with you on a more personal level. Music is a great topic for connection because it reveals a bit about who you are. By framing it as a playful challenge, you create an opportunity for her to invest in the interaction. The best part? It gives her a reason to think about you while she tries to guess your favorite tracks. Notice how each of these examples builds on the same foundation, creating a sense of intrigue and playfulness while showing confidence. But there's another layer to explore: how you can use texting to demonstrate emotional intelligence. A lot of guys miss this entirely because they focus solely on impressing her. The truth is, women are drawn to men who can make them feel understood and appreciated. Here's how you can do that through text. What's one thing you wish more people understood about you? This message is a game changer. It's thoughtful, unexpected, and gives her a chance to open up in a way most people never ask for. When you show interest in her deeper thoughts and feelings, it sets you apart from the crowd. But here's the key. You have to be ready to listen and respond in a way that shows you genuinely care. At the same time, you don't want to lose the playful energy that keeps things light and engaging. Balance is crucial. For instance, you could follow up a deep question with something more playful to keep the mood dynamic. Let's say she shares something personal in response to your question. You could reply with, "Okay, that was way too deep for a Tuesday. Now tell me your go-to guilty pleasure snack." This kind of exchange creates a natural rhythm, blending emotional depth with light-hearted banter. And let's not forget about using spontaneity to your advantage. A text like, "I just realized something, I'd probably crush you at Mario Kart," adds a competitive, fun vibe to the conversation. It's bold without being overbearing, and it opens the door to a playful challenge that could even lead to plans for a real-life meetup. At its core, great texting is about more than just words. It's about creating moments. Whether it's laughter, curiosity, or a sense of connection, every message should serve a purpose. It's not about being perfect. It's about being intentional and authentic in how you communicate. As we dig deeper into the art of texting, it's important to recognize one crucial factor that sets truly engaging messages apart. They make her feel seen and valued. While humor, curiosity, and mystery capture attention, the way you personalize your texts can make her feel uniquely understood. And that's where emotional and intellectual attraction truly begin to form. Here's an example of how you can combine personalization with intrigue. "I feel like you're the kind of person who always orders the same thing at a restaurant. Am I right, or am I completely off?" What makes this text so effective is its subtle playfulness and how it invites her to respond in a way that reveals a bit about herself. Even if she doesn't fit the description, she'll likely respond with a playful defense or explanation, which creates a natural flow to the conversation. Why does this approach work so well? Because it shows that you're not just throwing out generic compliments or questions. Instead, you're taking an active interest in learning about her, even in a light-hearted way. This kind of thoughtful communication shows emotional intelligence, which is incredibly attractive. Now, Let's look at how you can spark curiosity while encouraging her to invest in the conversation. A text like, "I just heard something that reminded me of you. Guess what it was?" can be surprisingly impactful. Not only does it make her wonder what you're referring to, but it also subtly compliments her by suggesting she's memorable. The guessing aspect turns it into a fun little game, making her more likely to engage. But texting isn't just about fun and games. It's also a subtle way to project confidence. Confidence, when done right, is magnetic, and it often shines through in the way you set the tone for the conversation. For example, instead of asking, "What are you up to this weekend?" you could say, "I've got a great idea for Saturday, but I'll need to check if you're free first." See the difference? The latter statement assumes you're someone who makes plans and takes initiative, while still leaving room for her input. Confidence isn't just about the words themselves, though. It's about the energy behind them. Avoid sending texts that come across as overly eager or apologetic, like, "I hope I'm not bothering you," or "Sorry if this is random." Messages like these suggest insecurity and can make the interaction feel unbalanced. Instead, embrace a tone that's self-assured and relaxed. Something as simple as, "I just remembered something hilarious that happened the other day. Want to hear it?" can set a much more engaging tone. Let's talk about another powerful text, one that uses intrigue to subtly set you apart. "There's something I noticed about you, but I'm not sure if I should tell you yet." This one works because it plants a seed of curiosity while also framing you as observant and thoughtful. The key here is to actually have something specific in mind when she follows up. Maybe it's something unique about her sense of humor, her perspective on life, or even the way she handled a particular situation. When you reveal your observation, make sure it's genuine and positive. It shows that you're paying attention in a meaningful way. Texting is also an opportunity to showcase your ability to create shared moments, even from a distance. Let's say you send something like, "I just tried the most ridiculous dessert, churros stuffed with ice cream. You need to try it, or your life isn't complete." Not only does this text make her laugh, but it also plants the idea of a shared experience. Even if it's a small, casual mention, it's a subtle way of weaving connection into the conversation. And here's a powerful but often overlooked tip. Leave room for her to invest in the interaction. Don't flood her with long, overly detailed texts that feel one-sided. Instead, create openings for her to contribute. For example, after saying, "I just found an awesome spot for coffee," you could follow up with, "What's your go-to order?" By inviting her to share, you're making the conversation feel balanced and reciprocal. Each of these techniques builds on the idea that texting isn't about trying too hard to impress. It's about creating a dynamic that feels natural, engaging, and uniquely tailored to her. When she reads your messages, she should feel like she's talking to someone who's confident, curious, and genuinely fun to be around. By now, you've seen how humor, curiosity, and confidence create powerful messages that draw her in. But there's another layer to texting that can deepen the connection even further: understanding timing and tone. Knowing when and how to send a text can make just as much of an impact as the words themselves. Let's explore this in detail. One of the most common mistakes guys make is texting too often or too quickly. It's tempting to reply the moment you get a message, especially when you're excited about someone, but constant availability can sometimes work against you. Think about this. When a conversation flows naturally, with just the right pauses, it builds anticipation. For example, if she replies to one of your texts with something playful or intriguing, resist the urge to fire back immediately. Instead, take a moment to craft a response that keeps the energy going. The pause creates a sense of suspense that makes your messages feel more deliberate and thoughtful. But what about tone? The way you phrase your texts can completely shift how they're perceived. For instance, imagine you're trying to compliment her. Instead of saying, "You're really beautiful," which might feel generic or overused, Try something more specific and lighthearted like, "Okay, I'm starting to think you've got a cheat code for great hair. How do you do that?" This text stands out because it's unique, playful, and focuses on something she might not hear all the time. Tone also matters when you're teasing or joking. A text like, "You're probably one of those people who skips to the end of a book, aren't you?" can come across as fun and flirty, but it's important to balance it with warmth so it doesn't feel like criticism. Adding something like, "I'm kidding, although I'll be slightly suspicious if you say yes," softens the teasing and keeps the conversation friendly. Now, let's talk about how you can use texting to create a sense of adventure. A great way to do this is by sparking her imagination. For example, you could say, "If we were planning a spontaneous road trip right now, where would we go?" This kind of message encourages her to think outside the box and share something personal, like her favorite destinations or dream experiences. Plus, it subtly plants the idea of doing something exciting together, even if it's hypothetical for now. Building on that, consider how you can use texts to set a vision for shared moments. A message like, "I just found the perfect place for tacos. Now I just need someone who appreciates good salsa. Any takers?" is playful, but also leaves the door open for her to imagine herself in that scenario with you. It's not about pushing for plans right away. It's about creating a vibe that feels inviting and fun. But let's not forget the power of unpredictability. Sending something unexpected can make a huge impact. For instance, instead of always texting during predictable hours, try sending a light, random message at an unusual time. Maybe it's as simple as, "Late night debate, pancakes or waffles at 10 p.m. These kinds of messages feel spontaneous and give her a sense that you're thinking of her in the moment. Of course, texting isn't just about the fun stuff. It's also an opportunity to show your emotional intelligence. Pay attention to what she shares, whether it's about her day, her interests, or something more personal. If she mentions she's had a stressful day, a thoughtful text like, "You've got this. Tomorrow will be way better, I'm sure of it," can go a long way in showing her that you're supportive and attentive. This brings us to one of the most underrated aspects of texting, the ability to make her feel appreciated. A text like, "You've got this way of making people feel comfortable. It's rare, and I think it's amazing," stands out because it's genuine and focused on her personality rather than surface-level compliments. These kinds of messages not only make her feel good, but also show that you see her as more than just someone to flirt with. By now, you're starting to see the bigger picture. Texting isn't about using canned lines or trying to be overly clever. It's about creating a balance, playfulness, thoughtfulness, and a bit of unpredictability, all while being authentic to who you are. The more intentional and engaged you are in your communication, the more she'll look forward to hearing from you. Confidence in texting isn't about being cocky or over the top. It's about being unapologetically yourself, while also showing that you respect her time and attention. For example, instead of sending endless follow-ups like, "Hey, did you see my last message?" or "Why aren't you responding?" you maintain a sense of calm. If she doesn't reply immediately, you assume she's busy and let the conversation breathe. Confidence is knowing that you don't need constant validation because you bring value to the interaction. This kind of mindset naturally comes across in your tone. A confident texter doesn't just seek approval, they set the tone of the conversation. Instead of asking for permission with messages like, "Is it okay if I text you about this?" you could say, "I have a theory about you. Want to hear it?" Notice how the second option invites engagement without sounding unsure. It positions you as someone who is comfortable leading the interaction while keeping it playful and intriguing. But confidence alone isn't enough. You also need emotional intelligence. This means being attuned to her emotions and knowing how to respond appropriately. Let's say she shares that she's had a tough day. Instead of brushing it off with a generic, "That sucks," you could say, "That sounds rough. Want to vent about it or distract yourself with something funny?" This shows that you're not only listening, but also giving her the option to choose how she wants to engage, which makes her feel respected and understood. Now, let's circle back to the idea of creating emotional resonance. One of the most powerful ways to do this is by tying your texts to shared memories or experiences. For instance, if you've already had a meaningful conversation or met in person, referencing something unique about that moment can deepen the connection. A message like, "Every time I pass that little coffee shop, I think about how you totally judged my latte order," is light-hearted yet personal. It reminds her of a moment you shared while keeping the tone fun and engaging. Personalization is key here. Avoid generic compliments or cookie-cutter lines that could be sent to anyone. Instead, focus on what makes her unique. Maybe she mentioned a quirky hobby or an interesting goal during a previous conversation. A text like, "I still can't believe you're into rock climbing. I need you to explain how dangling off a cliff is supposed to be fun," not only shows that you are paying attention, but also keeps the interaction playful and memorable. Another subtle but impactful move is to use texting as a way to build anticipation for future interactions. For example, you could say, "I just thought of the perfect way to settle our pizza versus tacos debate, but it requires a live demonstration." This text hints at meeting in person without directly asking, creating a sense of excitement and mystery. It shows that you're interested in spending time with her while leaving her curious about what you have in mind. And let's not underestimate the power of ending a conversation well. Too often, people let texts fizzle out awkwardly, which can leave a negative impression. Instead, take control of the narrative. A message like, "This was fun, but I have to run. Let's pick this up later. I want to hear more about your guilty pleasure TV shows," not only leaves her wanting more, but also shows that you value your time and hers. It keeps the interaction open-ended while giving her a reason to look forward to your next conversation. Ultimately, great texting isn't about trying to be someone you're not. It's about amplifying the best parts of your personality and communicating in a way that feels natural and engaging. Whether you're using humor, curiosity, or genuine interest, the goal is to create messages that resonate on a deeper level. When she reads your texts, she should feel like she's connecting with someone confident, thoughtful, and genuinely enjoyable to talk to. The bottom line? Women don't just want texts that entertain them. They want messages that make them feel something. Whether it's laughter, curiosity, or a sense of being truly understood, your words have the power to leave a lasting impression.